between having a space that looks good and a space that's giving off good energy.
Yes.
So we want to talk a little bit about Feng Shui. A lot of people do abide by the principles.
Yes.
So we thought we would talk about it here and talk about maybe the right way and the wrong way.
And the wrong way. So we say the wrong way. So, you know, have you ever walked into a room where you just feel something's off? You're not quite sure what it is, whether it could be bad design, but it could also be. It could also
or it could be a room with no wine.
With no wine.
Something
makes
feels
every
wrong
room
here.
bad. It's funny, good wine will always make every room look fantastic.
It will,
so,
won't
you know,
it?
dressing, fit. Anyway, yeah. So Feng Shui is really the study of principles in energy and how they interact with our space.
Right.
Okay, so like I said, you walk into a room, sometimes you feel something's off, not quite sure what, and this is an ancient technique. And the funny thing is as I was kind of going over and studying it again, because I haven't, to be honest, use it a lot.
Yeah, that's okay.
But going over and studying it, you realize that a lot of these principles are things we use in everyday interior design anyway.
Right.
So, you know, it's quite amazing.
We actually have a chart to show you what we're talking about here. And it's placing different colors or shades of colors, a certain color family, in certain places in your room. We're going to put it on our website. So it's on cityline.ca. You can go check it out if you really want to study it.
And the thing about this is basically what it's saying is our home is divided into areas. So certain areas of our home based on north, south, east, west are, they give off different energies or concentrate different energies. So let's say, for example, we were talking about fame and fortune is the back middle part of your home. And as Tracy and I were talking about, she was saying, you have what in the back middle part of your home? Red.
She
has a red photo.
Painting.
And that is why she is who she is, because it's the Feng Shui, right? So it has nothing to do with her.
It's not me at all. Fame and reputation. So this is a good way to make sure you keep that reputation solid. Put
keep
some
it good,
red
right?
in the back the rear middle.
Yeah, so I mean, these are all kind of like tips and tricks, and they're really interesting. But again, if you kind of follow those principles, it's interesting to see how different the energy is and whether or not you actually subscribe to the fact that you believe that Feng Shui works.
Right.
It's interesting to see how the energy feels when you walk into a space that adheres to the principles.
Okay.
So what I want everybody in the audience to do, as well as at home, is, you know, we're going to have a look at this right now, and this is beautiful. I mean, everything that we have here is from LT. It's a gorgeous room.
Right.
But how do you feel looking at this room now, and then think about after the break when we show the room, and see how you feel after?
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
We are going to show you the correct Feng Shui after the room, but you tell us how you feel about it. See, for some reason, I'm just feeling better about this space. I think it's because you have switched things around so that we've got a good flow of energy going on. We're trying to update your Feng Shui so that things are working in the right direction. The first thing I've noticed, and it's just this conversational area.
Right.
It was open before,
Yes.
and this has closed it off, and it gives it definitely a more comfy feeling.
So let's start with that, because furniture placement is one of the biggest principles in Feng Shui when you're talking about, obviously, interior design and spatial planning.
Right.
So in the first, let's pull up the picture from the first segment. And again, there was nothing wrong with it, but what you notice is that the two side chairs are actually at opposite ends of the sofa.
Right.
And what that creates is a little bit of a challenge when I have, let's say, for example, 4 people over, and I have one person sitting here talking to me, one person there sitting talking to you. If these 2 people get up, I'm yelling at you all the way at the other end of the room.
Right.
So that is not the best when it comes to Feng Shui. So instead, we've created almost 2 little areas that work well together. We have the area here with the tub chairs, and then the sofa here. So you can still converse with the people across from you, but if this person gets up and leaves, this person is still, you know, at an earshot that you can still speak with them.
So a very nice conversational area still happening here.
100%.
And do the colors make a difference? Do you pick gray for a reason?
So colors are interesting when it comes to Feng Shui, and Feng Shui basically says that the energy in a space and color in a space, yes, dictates certain things in certain areas, as we pulled up in the first photo. But what we have to also take into account is when we walk into a space, there are certain colors make us feel happy, and certain colors don't. So if I walk into a space, we're going to go into a generality here. Generalization. Generality is not a word. Generalization. We're going to go into generalization.
It's good. You corrected yourself.
I just make my own now. I make my own. So what color makes you happy? But it's not only what makes you happy, because I could love black, and black might make me happy, but it's very somber, and it changes the energy in a room. So we started off with Hazy Lilac from Benjamin Moore. I absolutely love this color as a backdrop. It's such a great color. It's a soft palette. Exactly. A soft palette, and it's really, it gives a nice backdrop for everything else that we've done here. So let's talk for a bit about also the shape of furniture, and when we talked about placement, how we've placed it. So, well, again, thinking back to the first room, we had those very squared off chairs. nothing wrong with them. They look great.
Yeah.
But Feng Shui says that you should have pieces that are circular. And why? Energy moves around it. It's easier to move around energy, but think about us too. So if you go back to what I said at the beginning was, a lot of these principles make sense. You know, if you have a lot of squared off pieces, it becomes very, almost very edgy, not edgy as
no, I
you know,
hear
kind
what
of forward
you're saying.
thinking.
You can't have that flow.
Exactly.
You can't move around your space easily when everything is a hard corner.
Exactly. And energy traps in corners. So if you have a lot of angled off corners, like in a sectional, for example, you could definitely do a sectional, but it should have an open end at this side so that the energy can still flow around, whereas if you have an arm, it stops.
Got it.
Okay, now let's talk a little bit again also about the, sorry, not the colors, the shapes of the furniture, but the placement is how we've done them. So going back to what we said is we have this area here, having a table in between two areas that people are conversing is important because function is the most important when it comes to the energy. I need to be able to put my martini down somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Gotta have somewhere for the martini.
This is good energy.
This is good. This is all. See, this is Tracy's feng shui. This is your feng shui. Okay. Plant faux plants. Now, I know people are at home and are like, faux plants. Yes, there's a lot of schools of thought on this, but I'm speaking purely from a feng shui standpoint. Faux plants are bad energy because they represent death or they represent something that is stagnant.
It's lifeless.
Lifeless.
Okay.
So instead of the beautiful orchid that I had at the beginning, we've actually introduced these great orchids from Sheridan Nurseries. And real. Now, if you're like me and kill things, succulents are a great way to do it.
Yes,
and just
they
keep
are.
That, right? Yes, they are.
Because killing things are bad for feng shui as well.
And finally, quickly, we'll touch on the light.
Yes.
So feng shui also says that you should have crystals in a space because crystals divert energies. So you'll see a lot of time people will just hang a crystal over their bed because they actually are, you know, very strict followers of feng shui. But what if you want to do it in a more stylized way? I love this piece from LT. So this is actually crystal rods that can then deflect the light. In a different way, in a more stylized way.
So this is all about the flow of good energy. There's good energy, and then there is electrical energy, which we're going to spend some time talking about. So use some of these principles